Hi there, my name is Ouroboros, or Oro, and I'm just going to give a little tutorial on how to make stars that render like stink! That's a Kiwi colloquialism. It just means fast. Wow, that car is going like stink! Anyway, let's get into it. A few words about the Bryce starfield. It's not an effect to be featured. First off, it supports that star environment. Second thing is, and this is a little bit weird, it's affected by your FOV, or field of view. So here's a universe I prepared earlier. Render settings are default. The custom starfield is on with all the settings at max, so you can see a wide range of stars. And the camera default field of view is at 60 degrees. So first off, we're going to change the camera view to 180 degrees, the widest view possible. Very, very fisheye. We're seeing massive distortion here. The middle stars are dark because they are so small now compared to the rest of the stars, while the edge stars are just starting to be zoom streaked. Right? So that's one view, and let's change this view now to about 3 degrees. And here we see Bryce's dirty secret when it comes to the starfield. They are not stars, they are just tinted circles. Now this effect can be very inconvenient when composing a scene because if you change your camera view, then the stars change for some weird reason, even though they're right next to you as opposed to light years away. Well, what if your scene is actually mostly stars? What you need to do is create better stars, and you don't need to create very many, just some feature stars that call attention away from the starfield. So here's a quick and dirty way to create some simple large stars like the sun to give the starfield a sense of depth. And here's your secret: you light a picture of a star. So let's get started. I'm using Photoshop, but any graphics program will be fine. Anything that can give you white, black, and shades of grey in between. So features of stars, well, this one looks almost annoyingly symmetrical, like crosshairs of a gun, but never mind, you make yours slightly more asymmetrical. But try a halo, some star points, some gradients there to show that the star itself has some atmosphere, even though of course that atmosphere are probably going to be pure plasma. And the image itself is relatively small. This image is 256 pixels square. It can be even smaller and still get a fantastic effect in your Brightscape because these stars are going to be relatively small. We're going to save that as a TIFF. It's just a format that both Macs and PCs can use. You can save it as a bump, or BMP, anything that can be used in your version of Bryce will be fine. Second thing we do, open up Bryce and we'll set up a star field. To prep this, we're just going to delete the ground plane. I'm going to lower the camera down to a height of 0 Bryce units. And I'm going to bring the director to the camera. It's just a handy setup to do to reduce screen clutter, and if you're going to be doing modeling, a good preference to set is to make sure you're creating items at world center. When you create items at world center, you have axes of symmetry that you can use that help you reference where you're going to build your model. Step 3, let's create a circle. And while I asked Bryce to create items at world center, it doesn't. Actually, it creates things at 0x and 0z, but height is really dependent on what the object is. So I'm going to be more deliberate here. And 0, 0, negative 10.25. So I'm setting it back on the z-axis. I'll tell you why later. With the circle selected, we click M for the MATLAB. The default material is kind of messy, but if you just run your mouse down the swatch column, you'll reset it nicely enough. We set the A texture, or the only texture we'll be dealing with, to image texture, and get into the texture source editor. And here's your image texture library. And we're going to load the star image by clicking on one of these empty boxes, find the star image, and OK it. Then we copy the image and paste it into the alpha box. We're going to use the alpha to drive transparency with all the special effects we've got on the star, the halos and the glows. Okay. Now we could color it in the MATLAB, but you'll find that giving each circle its own light gives a far better look and gives a potential lighting source to your scene if you need more lights in your scene. So we're going to create a radial light and place it at 0, 0, 0, directly world center. Now, I'll run through some permutations later, but right now I only want the light to light the circle and nothing else. So I'm going to use range fall off, which is measured in Bryce units, and set it to about 20 Bryce units. The intensity is about 20, and there we have a star that renders like stink! But we're not done yet because our star is at an angle. One thing you should know about stars is that they're spherical, not a flat image. And no matter where you are positioned, stars will always appear circular. So let's make sure that's always the case. We're going to select the circle and we're going to parent it to the light. You could use the parent tool here, which is you just drag the parent tool to the object that you're going to parent it to until it highlights. And you're done. But I'm going to go through the attributes linking section here for more detail, so you understand what's going on. We're propagating the distance, the offset, the rotation, and the size. We won't get into what that is, but basically that means that that circle is locked in its position to the radial light. That's all we need to know. It's locked there. It's like it's glued onto the light, just like you might glue a bit of paper onto a bowling ball, as that so often happens. Finally, we're going to make the light track the camera in the +Z orientation. Now, if you can imagine that light has an axis through the Z direction, it means the radial light's front Z axis will always point to the camera. And because we've parented the circle to the rear of the light, or the back of the Z axis, the circle will always be behind the light, square on to the camera. Take a look at the model that we have here. When I press tick, bang, all of a sudden things line up. If you take a look at the nano preview, we see a perfect circle here. Let's take a test render. Wow, pretty. So if we take a look at our setup from top-down view, so we're looking from above, no matter where we move the star or move the radial light, it will always be orienting the circle correct for the camera.